Federal courthouse, high-stakes trucking case. 25 years of practice under my belt, and there I was. My stomach was churning. My hands were shaking. I was reviewing my notes for what seemed like the 100th time. I'd won 12 consecutive cases before this one. Didn't matter. The fear was still there. But here's what nobody told me when I graduated first in my law school class. The very qualities that make you excellent, your perfectionism, your relentless drive, your impossibly high standards, they don't just propel you forward. They also create a prison of constant pressure and anxiety that gets stronger with every success. Welcome to the Free Lawyer Podcast. I'm your host, Gary Miles. Today we're talking about the hidden cost of legal excellence. Not the billable hours or the missed dinners. Those costs are obvious, aren't they? But I'm talking about the psychological price tag that successful lawyers pay every single day, and often without even realizing it. And more importantly, I'm going to show you that there's another way. Beginning with our very early life, our academic excellence set the trap for the perfectionist paradox. For me, I was the fat kid with glasses who was bullied and picked on and called names as a kid, and I used perfectionism as my armor. The greater my success, the more I felt insulated from the criticism, the bullying, those things that kids do to each other. I finished first in my high school, my college, and my law school, but I never felt that I was enough. And what I've learned is that those assets we have, those assets that help us to be successful in school, successful in our education, they become liabilities as we practice law. That perfectionism drives our initial success. It may help us to do well in college and law school and in our early years as lawyers, but that same trait creates chronic stress over time because it creates an internal scorecard that never balances. For me, I won 12 cases in a row, but I still doubted myself. And see, this is the key to know. We don't have, as lawyers, a workload problem. We have a self-worth problem. Perfectionism is certainly part of the trap, isn't it? But what are the other hidden stressors that destroy so many successful lawyers? I'm going to lay out 7 of the most important ones right here. And these are specific triggers that some of you never even recognize. And I'll go through each of them briefly and give you some examples. The first is the billable hour trap. We use 6-minute increments to measure our worth. And what does that create? We feel guilty during family time, during vacations, during lunch. Our natural human rhythms become truly a source of shame. The weekends with our family, the trips away, nights of relaxing, they become sources of shame because we're not keeping up with our billing. And then there's the comparison game. LinkedIn today is a great tool, but how often do you see another lawyer in your field posting a highlight reel of his most recent success? And no matter how well you've done, there's always someone out there who from the outside looks to be even more successful than you. And your wins, while wonderful, to you never quite feel big enough. And there's the burden of our client expectations. We're always carrying their hopes, their fears, and their anxiety. Whether it's family law, criminal, personal injury, whatever it might be, their lives often depend on our efforts and our success. And that's an emotional commitment that's never billed and never really recognized. And we're expected to manage unrealistic expectations of our clients at times and still deliver results that, no matter how good they are, often seem to never be enough. And then, of course, there's the fear of failure factor. How many of you ever felt that? The very last jury trial I had, the very last one, I had a very easy plaintiff's personal injury case. We tried to settle, but we couldn't. There was no dispute, really, about the fact that the plaintiff was going to win. The defendant didn't admit it, but they didn't seriously contest liability. It was all about damages. But it was, to my great shock and consternation, there was a defense verdict. And I felt like such a loser after years of successful results. Look at what happened to my client. And see, when you try cases, or really in many fields in law, somebody always loses. No matter what, somebody always loses. And I've learned now that those outcomes are truly beyond our control, but yet all too often we blame ourselves, don't we? And then there's the isolation factor. I talk to a lot of lawyers on LinkedIn, and I've learned that whether you're in a big firm with 1,000 lawyers, a medium-sized firm with 50, a small law firm with 5, or a solo practitioner, we often feel lonely. We feel alone. We feel there's no one we can talk to. And why is that? There's such a competitive culture in the legal profession, and it discourages vulnerability and openness. So we suffer in silence rather than seeking help. Our struggles, our confusions, our concerns, our fears stay hidden inside of us. We don't share them with anyone. And there's so few colleagues who we feel we can trust with our real struggles. And then there's the illusion of control. Our over-preparation creates anxiety, not confidence. I know I was so afraid of losing. I tried to control everything else I could to guarantee that win, that success. But really all I did was create my own anxiety and stress because I was trying to control the uncontrollable. We have no power over certain things in our world. The temperament of the judge, the composition of the jury, the actions of the opposing lawyer, even what our witnesses say on the stand, as much as I tried to control them, as much as I tell my witness, whatever you do, don't say this, wouldn't you know that's exactly what they would say. There are so many variables we can't manage, but we want to control them and we can't. And lastly, there's the terrible financial pressure. No matter how much we work, how hard we commit to our practice, there never seems to be enough revenue, enough security. Have you noticed that when you bring home your paycheck, how little of that seemingly huge pay you actually get to bring home after taxes and retirement and parking and other deductions? Even at very high income levels, with the standard of living we have, we feel like there's not enough left over. And then we think about such things as trying to buy a house in today's economy, paying for college at its incredibly expensive levels. And our lifestyle expansion has matched our income growth, so we never really feel financially comfortable. Now, these 7 things I've highlighted, these are not separate problems. These are all symptoms of operating from external authority rather than internal authority, from operating from a world where we depend on others for their compliments, on validation from somewhere outside of us instead of inside of us. And what's the real cost of all this stress? That chronic stress destroys legal careers and lives. The ABA has shown there's truly a mental health crisis in our profession. There are problematic drinking rates. I believe the ABA study showed 25% to a third had substance abuse problems. Depression and anxiety were so much greater than the average population. And even, I believe the statistic was 11.9% of lawyers self-reported to the ABA that they had had suicidal thoughts in the year before. And if I had a suicidal thought, I certainly would not tell the ABA. So what was the real amount? And that number is just stunning. But the stress truly can destroy our lives. Many of you know I struggled with addiction in my career. My nightly drinking became compulsive. I'd wake up every morning at 4 a.m. filled with shame and fear and guilt. And ultimately suffered a blackout that led to a change and led to a process of recovery. I was at a place where I couldn't imagine my life drinking the way I had been, but I also could not visualize not drinking. And thankfully, I found my way into recovery. But there are 4 major costs of the stress that so many of us feel. The first is a destruction of our mental health. The stress, the anxiety, the depression, the resorting to substances or behaviors that are unhealthy to relieve the stress. And then there are the physical manifestations. Not sleeping well. How many of you have trouble sleeping at night, worrying about your cases or your practice? Weight gain, obesity, immunity issues, cardiovascular problems, one after another. Those physical side effects of our stress can actually be life-changing. I know too many lawyers who died young from a heart attack. And then there's professional impairment. Our decision-making is not as good. Our creativity, our willingness to take chances and do the right thing, our effectiveness as a lawyer can be affected by the stress. But worst of all, it can affect our fulfillment. I've seen too many lawyers quitting the profession because of the overwhelming stress. And then finally, there's the impact on our personal relationships with our spouse, with our children, with our families, our siblings, our friends. We become emotionally unavailable. We become irritable. We become disconnected, discontent. And the most tragic cost is this: the professionally accomplished but personally isolated lawyer, having sacrificed all the important relationships in their lives in pursuit of their legal excellence. If what I'm describing resonates with you, if you're thinking, Gary's describing my life, I want you to know you're not alone. And more importantly, I want you to know this: there's a path forward. There's a solution. And I offer a complimentary coaching call to successful attorneys who are ready to transform their relationship with their practice. Not to escape the profession, but to optimize how you practice this. And you can schedule that at GaryMiles.net or on the link in the show notes. And now let me tell you why traditional stress management fails lawyers and what actually works instead. Generic solutions don't address the unique pressures of our profession, and that's why traditional stress management systems fail, for three main reasons. Their generic solutions ignore the reality of our legal practices. Such comments as leave work at the office becomes impossible with client emergencies and cell phones and the constant availability. Maintaining work-life balance when court deadlines loom, hardly possible. I remember how courts used to schedule cases on December 27th, right in between Christmas and New Year's. Are you kidding me? And those traditional regimens are really designed for 9-to-5 jobs, not the legal practice. And the other issue is that our analytical mind resists so many approaches. We demand evidence-based approaches. The traditional touchy-feely methods feel unscientific to us. They're not evidential. We need logical frameworks that appeal to lawyer thinking. And most importantly are the time constraints. I don't know how many lawyers have told me, I don't have time to meet with you. And adding stress management becomes just another stressor. We have to integrate what we do into our existing routines. And for that reason, we need something that provides maximum benefit with minimal time investment. And the trouble is that most stress management programs require significant time commitments that busy attorneys like you simply don't have. You don't have that time to spend hours a week working on managing your stress. What you need are efficient practices that fit your reality and high-impact interventions. One key mindset shift: working smarter, decisions that compound over time. What you need are strategies designed for lawyers by someone who has practiced at the highest levels. And that's why I've come up with the Free Lawyer Framework. The first step is to recognize the stress in your life. That's the first step towards transformation. And there are 3 shifts that need to take place. The first is acknowledging the stress is truly courageous and not at all a sign of weakness. So many successful lawyers have learned to manage these stresses. And waiting until crisis level is actually the real risk. Dealing with the stress before it becomes overwhelming is so important. I chaired the Lawyer Assistance Program in Baltimore County, Maryland for many years, and I saw what happens when these stresses are not dealt with soon enough. Proactive transformation will really protect what you have built. And the stress you feel, I don't want you to feel bad about it. It's not a character flaw, it's data, it's information, it's feedback about what matters to you. Do you know why you feel stress when you're representing a client in court? It's because you care about your client. But the stress gives you information about where you need to make adjustments in your practice. It's actually a tool for professional growth. It's not something to criticize yourself about. I believe in breaking free while maintaining your excellence, not compromising your commitment to your clients, working with your perfectionist tendencies, not against them, transforming your caring into sustainable success. And that's the foundation of the Free Lawyer Framework. It has 3 pillars. Internal authority, which is shifting from seeking validation through others' opinions or outside circumstances like your win-loss record, to building unshakable confidence based on your competence, your preparation, your professional integrity, your effort, and your commitment to your clients. The second pillar is sustainable excellence, transforming your perfectionist drive into consistent peak performance through strategic systems and boundaries that will deliver excellent results to your clients without the internal suffering and exhaustion. And the third pillar is professional freedom, courageously restructuring your practice to align with your authentic values and life goals so that your work serves your priorities rather than consuming them. You will own your practice rather than it owning you. You will be rid of the Sunday night dreaded feeling to have to go to work tomorrow, and you'll be excited to go to work and serve your clients. This is not about working less, but it's about practicing from strength, not from fear. See, you can truly maintain your legal excellence and reclaim personal peace and freedom. You know, standing outside that federal courthouse 20 years ago, I thought the anxiety was just part of being a good lawyer. I thought that the price of excellence was constant suffering. I thought that if I wasn't stressed, I wasn't committed enough, but I was wrong. I continued to handle complex and difficult cases. I continued to maintain incredibly high standards, and I cared so deeply about my clients. But I began to do it from internal authority rather than external authority. I began to practice law with confidence in my competence and my commitment, rather than fear of the judgments of other people. And the difference was truly transformative. The hidden cost of legal excellence doesn't have to be a permanent price you pay. Your stress is not evidence you're not cut out for this profession. It's evidence you care deeply about your work and about your clients. Now it's time to learn how to transform that caring into sustainable success. If you're ready to explore what that looks like for your practice, I invite you to schedule a complimentary call with me at my website, GaryMiles.net. And while you're there, check out the free assessment that I have to evaluate your practice and the stresses and how you can best build freedom and purpose in your life. When we talk, let's talk about how you can practice law with purpose and live life with freedom. Until next time, remember, you don't need fixing, not at all. What you need is freedom. I'm Gary Miles. Stay free.